Welcome back to Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. Now, one of the Jubilee government's pillars is Uwazi, openness. So today's guest is government spokesman Eric Kiraithe, and we're assessing government communications since he started the job back in March. And one of the tweets that came in during the break, Kenyan perceptions of a government spokesman is that of a liar and a sycophant, and that came from Melchizedek. And before the break, you were addressing the past because before government spokesperson, you were police spokesperson. Yes. And so, how do you convince Kenyans, such as Melchizedek, that you are not a liar and a sycophant?
Excellent. I will seek engagement. I have just engaged him, and I'm sure when he goes and counterchecks what I have said, I will assist him to do that.
Okay, so let's come.
When he comes tomorrow, you will give it 2 minutes to say, yes, I was mistaken. And if you are mistaken, take me on board. Government spokesmen are liars and sycophants. You can't say that is a lie, because that is how Kenyans perceive their position to be. And maybe it's because we have not gone out enough to tell them what is government communication, because government communication is supposed to achieve the strategic, the longer term ambitions of a nation, not that of an individual, not that of a regime. But one thing I must make very clear is that the government spokesman will not go there to expose the political virtues of the government of the day. But the government spokesman must always go out and tell them, when they give you, you elected them on account of this manifesto, they have achieved the following things. You tell people the roads are being built in Mombasa, that the airport has moved from this point to the other, that the electricity is going to the last mile. It will be in favor of a certain administration. And of course the opposition who want to put that government of check and take power the next will brand you. But as we get used to an office in perpetuity, the public will grow to realize that if you are now looking for the truth, where do you go? Whom do you listen to? And it's unfortunate that that is what the government spokesmanship has been perceived to be. And it's a matter we must address, and address it consistently.
For you, Mr. Kiraithe, to communicate, you must have information.
Yes.
You must have access to information.
Exactly.
You must have access to cabinet secretaries. Yes. You must have access to the president, deputy president.
Yes.
So for you to get that information, to communicate.
Yes.
Do you have access?
I have all the access I need, and I have it when I need it.
Look, let's understand your office.
Yes.
Who do you report to?
Generally, I will report to the head of civil service. But within our office now, what we have created...
Where is your office located then?
It is located in KICC, 23rd floor. But the department is the executive office of the president.
Not the Ministry of Interior?
The Ministry of Interior, we have to work very closely, because it is also interior and coordination of government business, coordination of national government. And therefore, within our office, we have a center where we are going to get all the principal communications officers in all the ministries who are directly dealing with the principal secretaries to be able to assemble, and we will have an outlook, you know, the ICT issues, so that we have a coordination center where we keep tabs of everything. We also, in this center, we have the defense, we have the intelligence, we have everybody on board. Those people who don't go with an administration, ministries might change names, but whether, if it is water supply, it has been there
so
since.
So let me just stop you there so we make sure we're understanding you. So you're creating, or you have created, a government communication central hub.
We have set up the infrastructure actually, and it will be up and running in a few weeks.
So you're in the process of creating that.
But virtually it already exists, because we are already in communication with all these.
Okay.
With all these ministries.
So before the break, you outlined the communication context. You know, marginalization, radicalization. This is where your communication challenges occur. But what are your key deliverables?
The key deliverables is keeping the public informed. That is a very important deliverable. And when there are issues like radicalization, like this issue, nobody will highlight that, of the way marginalization has been tweaked to explain every other situation where there is poverty. The products are, do you continuously have programs with all the relevant arms of the government to ensure that this one is changed? It's a big thing to do.
Is reacting to opposition comments one of your deliverables?
If it is likely to prejudice the welfare of the people, if it is likely to stop development of humanity,
then how do you make the distinction between being a government spokesperson and a party spokesperson?
The government of the day is formed of a political party. Yeah? And you will support the government of the day. What I can't say when it comes to the party is join this party. When the politician is talking, he has no doubt. If he wants to join you to join Jubilee or ODM or COD or whatever, that is what he says. But the difference is that if, for example, you have a Jubilee government and it is carrying out a water project and the opposition says it's a tunnel of death, I must come out and tell people this is a Kenya water and sanitation project, a nationwide project, that institutions like World Bank don't finance regimes. They are there to serve their own interest and to serve humanity. And if you come with your political party propaganda and stop this project, it is Kenyans who will suffer. It's just like kazi kwa vijana. It is Kenyans who will suffer in perpetuity. So the government here is stepping in to protect the poorer Kenyans. If a project is pro-poor, it is not water comes here. No political party will consume it. If you tell people that there will be seismic, earthquakes in Muranga, I must come out and say, please, experts from international, no less than 5 consultancies have come, made studies, addressed issues, and said we are safe to move. So we are not responding as such to a political party.
And do you also say where there are hiccups or where there are challenges? Like in the context of what you're saying?
I'm employed by the government. When I receive feedback, yes, on where, if you ask me, for example, is corruption wrong, I will tell you it is. When we receive feedback from the public, we also make our own internal system of telling the government the continuity of people, the social stability, present and future of this country, the political stability, the investment environment is being compromised by these activities, and the government has its own system to address it.
Mr. Kiraithe, you said you have access.
Yes.
And you said you have a hub.
Yes.
Where you communicate with
that is still developing, but the offices, everything.
Last week, yeah. And I remember I asked you when we went to Arumboro's funeral.
Yes.
I asked you of a situation where you issued a statement about Raila.
Yes.
Raila had made some statements, and some people wanted Raila prosecuted.
Yes.
And you said Raila made those statements, maybe you want to be arrested. We won't arrest him because we want to be a matter. Something to that effect.
Yes.
You are contradicted by one spokesman from the State House, Itumbi. He said criminal is criminal. He contradicted. How come it happened?
Itumbi, you know Itumbi?
I know him.
We are working for the same administration, so I will not seek to respond to Itumbi here. But I don't know anybody who has answered Itumbi all along. You must distinguish.
So we're speaking about the digital.
Look here, I am a professional. I am a professional civil servant.
What is he?
I will not descend to some levels.
So you're saying the government you're serving engages people who are not professionals?
There is somewhere you will not bring me. Is it Otieno? Odhiambo. There is somewhere you will not bring me. And I think, you know, the social media and everybody thrives on controversy. And trying to draw...
Does what have included the
trying to draw a wedge. Trying to draw a wedge between the politics of the day and the government of the day.
Mr. Kiraithe, I need to clarify something that Mutegi said so we're not confused.
Yes.
The spokesperson for the presidency is Manoa.
Yes.
Mr. Itumbi and Eric Ngeno and various others form what's called, you know, part of the Presidential Strategic Communications Unit.
Yes.
And what you describe, this contradiction, you know, we had a series of contradictions earlier in the year, which, you know, we believe is what necessitated your appointment, you know, to streamline government communications. And so how effective are you if those blunders are still continuing?
Existing. Well, I'll tell you one thing. It is not only in Kenyan administration where you find the political team of an administration, even in Obama, even in this, and the professional civil servants differing. That is quite normal. The second thing, and thank you for that interjection, the president's spokesperson is Manoa Esipiso. You know his credentials, don't you?
Yes, I know.
You know his credentials.
Yes, no doubt.
And that is not in doubt. And this kind of things, by what Itumbi said, is right. He said every criminal must be prosecuted. And of course, what the ordinary Kenyans...
If there's a government spokesman and the presidential spokesman?
I will not... I know that those people are in an independent place. They do their own things. I cannot account for them. They have their own value. They have their own value. You remember the other day they were even... don't go to that.
Hold on.
We cannot discuss management of government.
Is that they were barred from State House. They were denied access to State House. You couldn't say that. And then they were reinstated. And so the idea should have been that they should have read that as a disciplining, you know, to curtail their behavior. Again, that hasn't happened. So we come back to the question, are you offering us, you know, clear, coordinated, coherent communications, which is why you...
I'm sure they are all listening to you. What I will tell you is that I will not discuss the management of government affairs here. What I will tell you is that I will tell you
what communication
my office is supposed to do. I'm coming to that. In the fullness of time, you and other Kenyans will be able to distinguish. Yeah? To distinguish. It's good this question has emanated that do we exist to respond to political parties? If ODM won elections in 2030, this office will still support that administration in the manner I have outlined. However, that's why you see we don't seek attention. We work with systems. Government is about systems. Government is about sustainability.
Do you foresee a situation where you say something, and it has happened before when Mutua was Dr. Mutua Alfred was the government spokesman, where he would issue a statement about certain issues, and then a minister, a cabinet secretary, or a principal secretary comes and said, no, that's not the situation. Do you foresee that happening in my office?
What I know is that such situations are sometimes inevitable, because communication sometimes develops. But that is why we have a government communications coordination center within the Ministry of Interior to generate information for me, and also to be able to touch base with the ministries concerned. And when the government chooses a certain way of doing things, you know, people like ministers are usually political figures for that administration.
Cabinet secretaries.
The cabinet secretary, so to speak. But being that we moved from the pure politicians to people who are technically savvy, people who understand how governments are supposed to work, it will be more unlikely. But quite often, communication being what it is, you must realize at what level we are, at what level it is sometimes very necessary to correct impressions, because sometimes what you say and how it is reported can correct an impression. So instead of spending time saying I was misquoted, or this newspaper should be changed, a complimentary communication comes and it says, yes, the government spokesman was wrong. And it is true, the government spokesman can catch a policy wrong.
Let me ask you,
yes,
at what stage would a communication officer in a ministry speak? Say for instance, Mwanda Joka, who is
yes,
who is the Minister of Interior. He speaks quite often.
Yes, and he does well.
Oh, how come he speaks but he can't pass you the information to speak?
No. There are matters of operations. There are matters which are very specific for the Ministry of Interior, and which he himself seated there on a daily basis does not need to wait. For example, when you see regularly, we communicate once per week. Basically, our communication is not supposed to be more on operational things, that is things which happen on a day-to-day basis. And I have told you, I have given you the programs. None of the programs I have given you lends itself to sporadic appearances. But in government operations like in security, if the government spokesman started going into every security operation, every shooting, that's why you see even within the Ministry of Interior, there is Mwanda Joka at the cabinet secretary, principal secretary level. And when you go to the police, there is Kiraithe, director of communication. There is Owino, who deals with what is going on a daily basis. And all of them communicate at different levels. And remember,
so there is an overarching plan, yes, and strategy.
The executives, like the head of the police, the county, the inspector general, the principal secretary, the cabinet secretary, they have their levels of communication, levels of matters, which they must address on a daily basis. So if the government spokesman started dealing with day-to-day things, then I think it will be quite a little bit confusing.
Are there times your office is called upon not to tell the truth? You know, not telling the truth is not necessarily a lie. So there are times your office is called upon not to say what has happened, not to tell the truth.
It has not happened yet, but you are a professional, Dhiambo. There is management of information. There is management of information. And communication is a tool to achieve certain ends.
That's a very good statement. Communication is a tool to achieve certain ends.
And the way you use it, let me give you an example. You don't agree all the time with the chairman here, or your MD.
Or even ourselves.
But I have not seen you coming here and saying, no, I'm fed up with this material. You can't do that. You manage information. And it comes, I want the public to understand us very well. We don't suppress information. There are times I know Mutegi
you don't suppress it,
has
you
told his son, I am feeling very well. You know, he has told his son, I'm feeling very well. That time he is driving to hospital and wondering, will I come out of it? But what do you want to achieve at that point in time? But strategically, the public must be informed in a manner that does not create panic and all that, of all matters affecting them. And this is taken as a very prime factor in the Constitution. And it is very important even for the credibility of an office like ours.
But the Constitution says the public has a right to information. So why do you hold information and claim it in their interest?
It is a right. It is a right to information. Nobody holds information as such, but you must release information. Management of information is a science in itself with plenty of literature.
Okay.
And all these researchers could not have been wrong, and I purport to be right.
Right. Here's what some of our viewers are saying. Your namesake, Eric, communication systems exist, but they're incapacitated by corruption. Kennedy, nowadays the government is not effective in communication at all. And so here you are creating communication hubs and, you know, managing information, and the perception out there is that you're not being effective at all.
I think those people cannot really be wrong. And you can see what has been done about corruption. I get very annoyed and disgusted with corruption because it costs this country too much.
But some factors would say you have a corrupt administration.
In February, the government realized that the communication function is not effective. They took measures to appoint an office. They have allocated resources to it, and the government continues to support this office so that the communications becomes more effective and coordinated. But by the way, I think when you look at His Excellency the President, the Deputy President, and everybody else, the cabinet secretaries, the government has really tried to communicate. Whether it is effective or not, we shall be carrying out service so that we identify those areas where it is not effective and design the strategy so that it becomes effective.
One person you should consult with your survey is communication expert Paul Achar, who says the government has struggled with strategic communication due to the experiment of centralizing government communication. I think there'll be more, but really you have a lot of work to do to convince Kenyans of delivering Uwazi, transparency, which is the third pillar of this government, effective and efficient communication. It's not happening. Kenyans don't believe you.
By the way, that person, that expert, with all due respect, is mistaken. The government communication is not about talking. You have seen Huduma centers. Is the government sending a message? You have seen what is happening on the roads. You have seen
what is happening on the roads.
The constructions of roads.
Construction.
And the additional
I thought there was a reference to, you know, that the bribing had stopped. We just needed to be clear.
Udwak, you are hitting me below the belt. That bribing is a disgust to everybody. Now, to say the government has not improved, maybe it has not reached expectations of certain people, but in terms of government communication, I can tell you this is a revolution. When you look at all these things, the government is sending a message. And the government, the greatest thing is that by the end of this administration, it will be a little bit hard. And if this continues for another 10 years, 15 years, it will be very hard to come and excite Kenyans on short-term things. Kenyans are able now to distinguish between a working government and a government that is not working. And what we need to sustain in communication is for the people to know what to look for in government.
When the Deputy President was in America, in New York, he had a press conference where he was asked one question about Kenyan soldiers who were taken by Al-Shabaab. In fact, there is one whose video is circulating the internet, in the social media, appealing, pleading, please, even pleading to the President, please help us. The Deputy President says this is a matter of Africa Union. Surely these are Kenyans. What is the situation? That's information Kenyans want to know.
This is a very security-wise sensitive matter. It borders on defense, and it is an issue of somebody talking in captivity. And the less said about it, the better.
Why would the parents, the relatives, the friends want to know what the Kenyan government is doing to sort them out?
From the government spokesman?
From the government spokesman.
And what I'm telling those people, and I want to look them in the face, is that the government is thinking about you. The government is thinking about the welfare of the smallest of its citizens, leave alone its soldiers. The government values, in fact, even value is an understatement, the effort by every Kenyan security man, whether it is a soldier fighting Al-Shabaab in Somalia, it is a sacrifice that cannot be paid for, and the government values the family. This man was captured doing a patriotic duty, and the government values that more than anything else.
So is the government doing anything?
Yes. The art, you know, we are talking about a continuing war. And it is unfair, I dare say unprofessional, to require the government spokesman to talk about an ongoing operation of this complexity and magnitude.
Is it fair to talk about corruption in the government, from the government spokesman?
It's very fair, and it's very right to say every corrupt person belongs to committee.
People die in hospitals because of lack of medicine or effective medical health. People die in our roads because of accidents. People die because there is no clean supply of water, and so many other things, mainly because of corruption. What is the government position from a government spokesman?
Let me start with the good side. People die because of lack of clean water. From the 1990s, a survey was done called Kenya Water and Sanitation System Project. Yeah? A Kenya-wide. I think the systems of dams which are under construction, if you look at yesterday's paper, there is consultancy advertised for 3 dams in yesterday's Daily Nation. Currently, they are from Cheche, Radat, and all that. There are several going on. So the government is addressing that issue. But let me not seem like I'm avoiding the issue of corruption. I think the government has set a very huge precedent. Anybody who has been mentioned in corruption, whether proven or not, including cabinet secretaries, who are very close even to His Excellency the President, have been asked to leave. And the prosecuting agencies who take them to court, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, have been given 100% free hand to arrest Kiraithe today, align him in court tomorrow. Of course, the independence of the judiciary is now becoming a reality. And therefore, if there is a corrupt person working there, Kenyans must know that is not the wish of the government. But the elephant in the room is our communal attitude towards corruption and law breaking. I can tell you, if you tried to overlap in a city like Geneva or London, you lived there. People will take you to Madari. They will not even take you to the police station. If you tried to overspeed, citizens for their own protection will tell you, my friend, you are not a competent driver. Nobody will even employ you if you are driving a public service vehicle and driving it the way it is driven here. If you went to London, saw a policeman, and he said, nani yako na kamsa hapo, I am telling you, you can feel the panic. Because people will be getting to be asked to be accomplice to crime. If you stole public money and attempted to run for the presidency or any elective post in the US or Japan, nobody will understand it.
Actually, that's happening at the moment, so we'll take a break.
So what is there?
No, that's happening at the moment, yes. at least in the US. But anyway, this is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. We'll be back after this break with government spokesman Kiraithe.